2050 net zero commitment is fine, but this is the critical decade where it needs to happen.
And do you think oil majors will act on their own accord without involvement of shareholders?
No. No, well, that has the history of the last 5 years already shown.
These 10 oil majors are, according to the CR100 Plus, not Paris aligned yet, not at all. So what would it mean for your voting?
The ones we are shareholder on we will certainly put our votes in line with Paris.
We need everything coming together because these companies will not change on their own, I think.
Our models clearly show that many Dutch and other European institutional investors truly vote responsibly, whereas the true preferences of BlackRock and other large US investors are probably not as green as they may advocate.
The first trend we've seen since 2016 is that investors increasingly vote for climate resolutions.
Generally, we found that Group A focuses on science-based targets and Group B settles for sufficient disclosure or company-issued targets.
What is the potential legal risk for the boards of other oil majors and also for investors?
Well, there are certainly risks here because by now it's 2022. It's pretty clear what's at stake. We know that there's a catastrophe in the making. And if you know, once as a director, you know that your corporation is not good for that kind of compensation, then there is a real risk you become liable next to the corporation as well. So there's also directors' liability at stake here.
So do you think voting for climate resolutions that ask for truly Paris-aligned targets, will that mitigate risks for investors?
It's an important, very important first step. Obviously for investors to vote for these kind of resolutions because it shows that they're serious. Because what we've heard by many speakers already is they won't change on their own behalf. That's sort of common knowledge already.
Because fossil fuels are the most important source of emissions. And so if total emissions need to go down by around 40%, it also means that the emissions from fossil fuels need to go down by that number.
Absolutely, Ian and Equinor agree that science is very clear, and the latest IPCC reports also very clear that we need deep emission cuts globally by 2030.
Dear investors, dear responsible investors, you know that there's no single oil major that's Paris aligned. But change really happens when you, investors, vote for these kind of resolutions. Therefore, you are our last hope in the fight against the climate crisis.